Okay, what I'm going to do for the next few minutes is talk a little bit about the night work nuances of access egress issues. I'm going to give you kind of just a little bit of an overview. Okay, there we are. I'm going to give you a little bit of overview of night work issues just to kind of set the stage a little bit and then tie it into some of these access egress issues. This is the problem that we have out there on lots of our highways. There's so much traffic out there that there's just no way that we're going to get access to that pavement during the daytime to do any meaningful work. We can't close a lane, we can't detour the traffic because there's no place else to put it. So the solution that we're increasingly going to, particularly in our urban areas and even in the rural areas where we have high traffic volumes, is to move the work to night. Well, night work offers obviously a number of very substantial advantages, reduced traffic volumes, we get better access to the work site, we can get our equipment in and out, we can get our materials in and out. We may be able to get longer work shifts. Just as an example, some areas of New York City on projects up there, if we work during the daytime, we may be able to get a 4 or at most a 6-hour work shift when we can actually be out on the pavement. If we move the work to night, we can increase that sometimes to at least an 8-hour shift. Cooler temperatures, which in this part of the country or out in Texas and Arizona and so on, during the summer months, it's just impossible. You're looking at 110, 115-degree temperatures during the daytime. You just can't go out and do meaningful work. So at night, we can get better temperatures and be able to go out and actually do some work without heat stress problems and so on. And also reduce business impact. Most of our businesses are less likely to be open doing business at night, so we're having less impact on them. Unfortunately, just moving the work to the night hours doesn't solve all of our problems, because particularly in our major metropolitan areas, there's still lots and lots of traffic out there. And I've been on night projects in states all over the country, and this could have been taken in any number of states. I think this might have been a shot somewhere in New York City, but I've been on night projects here in Florida, down in the Tampa area and so on, and they have similar types of traffic down there up until probably close to midnight before you can really begin to get any serious reduction in traffic. So we've got lots of concerns with working at night. Obviously, visibility and noise and glare for abutting residences may be an issue. The quality of the work may suffer at night if you don't have good illumination. Getting adequate staff out there, cost problems and logistics, and it just runs on and on. But the big one that we always hear, and the one that always comes up, and that's why I've got it in capital letters, is safety. We're legitimately concerned about safety of working at night. Lots of concerns out there. Irresponsible driver behavior, particularly impaired drivers. Everybody is concerned that we've got more drunk drivers, more drivers on drugs and so on out there at night. Speeds go up as the traffic volumes go down. It's just plain common sense that the speeds are going to go up. Driver confusion. Drivers aren't expecting, in many cases, to encounter work out there at night. They came home from their job at 5 or 6 in the afternoon. There was nothing on the highway. Then they go back out at 8 o'clock at night and go to the mall, and there's nothing there. And they get out of the mall at 9:30 or 10 o'clock to go home, and all of a sudden there's a work zone set up. So just driver expectancy problems and confusion. There's concern that workspace intrusions are going to go up at night. I don't think the data has shown that, but it's at least a concern that we have heard. Reduced visibility at night. Obviously, it gets dark in my state, and I think it gets dark down here at night as well. So problems not just for drivers, but for the workers seeing what's going on, and also worker safety issues at night, worker fatigue issues, and lots of other things that enter into it. We've been addressing this issue for a long time now. My agency started working on it back in the early 90s. There have been several NCHRP projects. Jerry Ullman down at TTI just finished up a big project on looking at the safety aspects of night work that I was involved in with Jerry. So there's lots of good information out there now. There's lots of material you can get. The last handbook listed there addresses mobile night work, guidelines on how to do that. So there's lots of information you can get telling you how to do it safely. But the key is that if you're going to work out there safely at night, you've got to think in terms of enhancing that traffic control setup. Enhancing it means making it better, doing more than you would do for the same setup in a daytime situation. Some of the things that you're going to almost automatically need to do is temporary illumination. You should be thinking in terms of brighter signs and traffic control devices, larger signs, more devices, closer spacings, better positive guidance so the driver knows where they're supposed to be. And if we're talking access egress issues, not just the drivers, but your truck drivers coming in, they need to be able to see those access points and know where they're supposed to be entering the workspace. Lots and lots of things that we can do that will enhance the safety of that and make the darn thing work for us at night. Other traffic control devices and safety features that ought to be almost routine out there at night, or some of them may be add-ons that you would add at night but not in the daytime. Things like temporary portable rumble strips that are now coming into use and availability that you might put out there, for example, to alert your drivers because they can't see where the entrance point is. If you put some rumble strips out there, something, it may alert your driver to let them know that they're approaching that point where they got to pull into the workspace. So lots and lots of tools that we could think about using. The real key to the whole thing is adequate illumination. Good lighting is just absolutely essential for night work. It affects the safety, the quality, the productivity, the morale of the workers. Everything is tied in to good lighting. Adequate illumination is part of it, but not just having enough light on the pavement or on the work surface, but controlling the glare. Numerous times I've driven through work zones and you come around a little curve or over the crest of a hill or something, and all of a sudden there's a temporary work light hitting you right in the face and you're just about totally blinded. And I'm sure you've all experienced that if you've driven through night work zones. So just having enough illumination there is only half the problem. You've got to make sure that you're not creating glare. And glare affects not just the drivers, it also affects your workers. Your equipment operators, the laborers on the ground, they're all affected by it. A lighting plan is essential. You can't just go out and set some lights up. You've got to have a plan in advance so you know what you're going to do, what types of lights you're going to use, where you're going to put them, how you're going to aim them, how you're going to maintain them. All of those kinds of questions need to be addressed in advance if you're going to do it properly. And again, there's lots of good details and references out there, some NCHRP reports and so on. One of those projects I was involved in. Another one, the 498, addresses the lighting issues. So lots of good information available for you. When we talk in terms of illumination, we're talking generally potentially 3 different levels of illumination. A general lighting throughout your workspace, just so equipment and workers can move around and see what's going on, and so drivers can see you and know you're there. That would be 5-foot candles. Paving and that type of operations, milling, equipment work areas and so on, you need more light. 5-foot candles is not adequate for that, so you need to bump it up to 10. And if you're doing detailed work, detailed mechanical work, joint finishing, things of that type, you'll need to bump it up to about 20-foot candles. Now, just as a comparison, normal roadway lighting is typically less than 2-foot candles, and I would say in most cases well less than 2-foot candles, maybe down around a 1/2 to 1-foot candle in that area. So normal roadway or street lighting is not even remotely adequate for doing night work. We see contractors and agencies trying to work under existing street lighting. It's just not adequate. It's not going to solve your problems. The light plan, I mentioned before, implementation of it is really the key to it. If it's just for an access egress area or if it's for a paving operation or whatever else, you need to plan ahead. You need to make sure the equipment is available before the work begins. You need to do a trial run. Don't wait until the paver's out there and you got 6 or 8 trucks lined up to figure out that you don't have enough light. You need to do a trial run either on-site or off-site to make sure that you've got the light you need and that everything is working. You need to do checks for glare. You need to have a photometric device out there so you can measure and see that you've actually got enough, that the uniformity is good. And remember that the specifications are almost always going to indicate that the agency's project engineer is the guy that really makes the final decision as to whether or not this is adequate. So you need to be working with him. Unfortunately, this is the kind of night work that we see in a lot of situations. We've got lighting down there. We can see it all the way down here. We got a light tower, but how would you like to have one of your kids up here working as a laborer finishing joints up in this area at night? No way. But this, unfortunately, is what we see out there. Well, here's something that looks pretty good right in this situation. We got pretty good light in this small area around these vehicles, so maybe it's not too bad. There's your batch truck that's probably just pulled into there. He's accessed the workspace by coming in through the cone line there. But if we look back upstream, we can see that all we've really got is just that one bank of lights there. We've got some glare issues for the workers as you're looking back toward it. We've got material piles there. We've got scrap piles and so on the pavement. So really what we have here is just simply not adequate. This is what a good night work zone ought to look like. This is the way some states are doing it now. This is my former agency where we have a string of light towers. That gives us the 5-foot candles all the way down as far as we can see. And then notice that the roller and the pavers all have additional lighting on them to get them up in their immediate vicinity up to the 10-foot candles. So this is what we need. Here we can get vehicles in and out of here because your drivers can see where they're supposed to be entering and exiting. Vehicles can see them staged up. They know there's vehicles there waiting to get back out and so on. So it's just a much better situation for everybody. This is what we need. But what does it take to do this? Well, obviously it takes lots and lots of light towers. This is what it looks like in the daytime when they're all down. They need to be moved out there at night. Lots and lots of light towers, lots of efforts, but it does work, and these contractors are getting good productivity. They're getting good quality results when you have that type of lighting out there. Here's another approach that we're starting to see in a few situations. This was a project in the Albany area a few years ago where they put permanent light towers up on a temporary basis. They put them up at the beginning of the project, left them there throughout the length of the project, and then took them out afterwards. This doesn't work very well for paving where you're moving along the roadway in a different location every night, but if you're in a situation where you're going to be doing heavy-duty pavement replacement or bridge work or something of that type, and you're going to be in the same area for an extended period of time, this is a good solution. It saves you the need to be out there moving the lights around every night. Just another example of a good project, the way they really ought to look. This piece of equipment, this truck over here had just come in to this workspace a few minutes before. A couple workers moved a couple cones, and he was able to pull in, but everybody can see him. They saw him coming. He knew where he was supposed to go. The traffic coming around him knows that he was there, knows what's going on. So when you get the lights out there, it really, really simplifies the problem. Flagging is something that we very often think of in terms of access and egress to help the work vehicles get in and out and so on. Flagging at night becomes even more problematic than it is in the daytime, but again, the key is that we need to have good illumination. You can't just depend on existing roadway lighting, and in fact, the MUTCD mandates, requires, it's a shall condition that you provide work lighting for flagging at night except for emergency situations. The key to night flagging, obviously, is to avoid it if possible. That's the key to all flagging. Don't do it unless you have to, because it is a high-risk operation, but particularly at night. But if you have to do it, good lighting and good setup procedures. How would you like one of your kids working as that flagger out there? Absolutely no way. Very, very high risk. That guy is in mortal danger every time he sets foot on the pavement, and that type of setup. Here's one that's a little bit better. We can see the guy now. He's got some lighting around him. He's got a white uniform on, so it doesn't meet the current ANSI standard, but at that time that was considered a pretty good uniform, and he was pretty visible. But what's really lacking here? You can't see the guy's face. What's important in good flagging? Driver, flagger, eye contact, and you don't have it here because you can't see the guy's face. Here's another one. You can barely see the flagger. This was an access point on that first operation I showed you where we had the one set of floodlights way down at the end. Again, just totally inadequate, but that's what we're seeing out there. Here's a good one from north of the border in Canada. Our actual work area is way down here, but they're letting the work vehicles in and out up here, and there's a flagger controlling it. Look at how that guy stands out. Good visibility. Again, that's not an ANSI Class 3 anymore, but a pretty good visible outfit that he's wearing. Good lighting. You can see the guy's face. You can see all around him. And if you saw some of the slides from further back, this guy really stands out like a beacon. So everybody, the traffic going through, the truckers that are getting in and out and so on, they can all see this guy. They know what's going on. They know where they're supposed to be entering and exiting. Work vehicle protection, the work vehicle side of it is very important. We need to make the work vehicles visible. And just a few of the tools that are really critical. This was a shot I took on a project out in the Midwest somewhere. This was at dusk. This is a night project. This shot was taken at dusk, and that truck is pretty visible, right? And we've got a few little visibility tools on it. Got some reflective tape here on the flaps and stuff like that. But an hour or so later, it got dark. Where's our truck? If the driver hadn't been sitting there half asleep with his foot on the brake so the brake lights were on, the thing is totally invisible. So we need to think about making those work vehicles visible at night, really critically important. Here's the kind of thing that we should be seeing. This is the sign that our colleague from New Hampshire mentioned, construction vehicle do not follow, but we got lots of reflective tape on the truck. And notice down here, what have they done here? They've actually cleaned the doggone thing so you can see the reflective tape. And you'll notice we've got the revolving lights up here. They're on both sides, so you got 360-degree visibility on it. This is critically important to make sure those vehicles are visible at night. Worker visibility as well. I'm not going to get into any depth on it, but we know that we need to make our workers visible at night. Again, so that one big reason so that that truck that's pulling into the workspace can see any workers that are there. We've been hearing lots and lots of concerns about safety issues for our workers out there in traffic, but the sad truth of the matter is that we as the industry kill more workers than the traveling public. We have more workers killed from backovers and runovers from our own equipment than are killed by the traveling public. So we need to make doggone sure that our workers are visible out there at night, particularly where you've got vehicles accessing that workspace. Our own trucks pulling in there are creating more of a risk to our workers than that tractor trailer or that semi that's driving through the workspace or through the work zone. Just as an example, the difference between day and night, the left side might be a perfectly legitimate setup for daytime. This shows a lane closure. The same principle would apply to access egress. As soon as we get into a night situation, the right side, we're enhancing the number of signs, bigger signs. Notice we got flashing lights on the signs. We've got get this thing pointed in the right direction. We got the light towers out there. We've added, or we got the arrow board. We've got larger devices. We've got mid-lane devices. Lots and lots of things that we're doing at night to enhance that work zone. The same principle applies to your access egress. A simple plan may work in the daytime. As soon as you get to night, you need to add more to it. Overview of our night work concerns, additional risk. It can be a safety issue for workers and travelers. We need to enhance the traffic control to reduce the risk, and planning is absolutely critical. Some of the practical solutions that we can use, that we can add to enhance the setup at night, and again, these all apply to access egress as well as to the other issues. Lots of references available. If you're going to be looking into night work, make sure that you get into some of this stuff and know what's available, know what tools you've got to use. This is what we need to be getting away from. This is what we need to be thinking in terms of if we're going to make night work as safe as we would like it to be, and to make sure that we can get our equipment and our vehicles in and out.